Hi, welcome to the Point Cybersecurity. I'm Carolyn Ford, as always, joined by Eric Trexler. Hi, Eric.
Hi, Carolyn. The best part of my week.
Same. And, this is the last episode in Cybersecurity Month. So this one is wrapping up Cybersecurity Month. And I think it's a very fitting topic. So we have our Senior Vice President for Global Governments and Critical Infrastructure, Sean Berg, here to talk about how he has seen the government react and respond to COVID. Welcome back, Sean.
Oh, thank you. Great to be back.
Sean, we're over 8 months in, just if you weren't counting. We're 8 months, and I think I saw a quote yesterday repurposed from Churchill saying, "We're near the end of the beginning."
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Where do we go from here?
Oh, my goodness. Well, I think, certainly as this kicked off back in mid-March, no one in government certainly, I think, understood the level of disruption and the magnitude of impact that COVID would have on how the government does business. Everything from, going to work, working in spaces, to, how they process classified work, to, how they go to battle has changed over just the last 6 to 8 months. So I certainly think that organizations within government are getting better at this. They understand the lay of the land. They've made a Herculean effort back in March to shift their workforce from a office workforce to a remote workforce. Within record time. A lot of them had plans in place to be able to support 5, 10, 15% of the workforce moving, but to rapidly go to 100% or 80% or some variant of that has been a Herculean effort, and getting that done in the time that they did was really amazing. Now,
Right.
I think the first phase of this, was probably the first couple of months where it was just get everyone online, right? Just get everyone being able to communicate, give them access to email remotely, get them on a notebook if they didn't have one, and ensure that they could do some level of work. Works fine in the unclassified world, less so in the classified spaces where you have to have access to a particular facility in order to be able to do work. So I think the next phase of this is a couple of things. One, okay, connectivity was the first thing, and then comes security and making sure that the work that they do is done in a secure fashion.
So they nailed connectivity. I mean, I think
that's
there were mistakes,
Yeah.
but most government agencies I've been involved with did a pretty good job of getting their people online, whether they had to buy laptops or let them use work from home devices, personally owned device. I feel like most customers did a good job.
What did they do for the class? For
classified environments, different world.
Yeah. I mean, I think, when certainly across the DoD, we've seen this with specific customers, and where they've basically had to disperse their workforce and then leverage, commercial solutions for classified or other types of technology to be able to light up non-traditional workspaces with access to secret networks. So that is new. Government or the Department of Defense has been doing it for VIPs, senior leaders for some time, but to do this in a more organized fashion to get more people access to those classified spaces, non-traditional classified access into non-traditional spaces is something that's new. And I think certainly, government, Department of Defense, intelligence community are all looking at this as a means of, okay, in a pandemic where you can't aggregate people into confined spaces like SCIFs. You need to look for other means with which people can communicate and collaborate, albeit maybe not on a top secret level, but on a secret level where you can have that you can disperse your workforce to other commercial buildings, things like that, and then be able to quickly wire it up for classified access. That's a good means of being able to keep the classified communication and collaboration going.
And I think we'll learn going forward, Carolyn, that this will be the new normal, if you will, if you let me use that overused term, right? When COVID goes away, we will still allow for those types of accesses where it makes sense.
Well, and
that's a good thing.
So my question is, typically something like, well, any process in a government, it seems like it takes a really long time, right? So what you're saying, like getting access to classified happened very quickly. I'm wondering if processes had to change to make that happen quick, I assume.
Yeah, processes and policy, right?
Is that going to be the new normal? Are we going to live under those new processes and policies, or will we go back to the old, let's take 5 years to do something?
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone recognizes the importance of resilience within their organization in facing threats, right? Whether it's a pandemic like COVID, or whether it's a near peer adversary that's denying spaces for you, dispersion of a fighting force or workforce is going to be an important means of resilience. So I do think that we're learning a lot. I think government's learning a lot in this, and I think it's only going to help us as we build, better business continuity plans, better resilience across the workforce. New ways of collaboration, for sure, is probably one of the biggest benefits from this predicament that we're in, where people are becoming more comfortable collaborating over video, and being able to get work done that they didn't feel like they were able to remotely in the past. So where you can have access to talent, right, across the nation. Before, certainly there's jobs and roles which you felt had to be done in a particular location that limited the pool of talent you could access to fulfill that. Now that talent, the amount of jobs that are, able to be supported remotely has increased dramatically, and that's going to increase the labor pool and going to have benefits from a diversity and experience perspective that I don't think that we're still trying to figure out. So pretty
yeah,
exciting.
the world changed. If our government at the Edge Summit, Carolyn, at the end of September, Steve Hernandez was in my panel, the CIO of Department of Education.
Yeah, he was my favorite.
He was awesome, and great CIO, and he made a comment which I have written down here is, I have a physical building, I have gates, guns, and guards, I have my land, and you have to get access through it. Then cloud happened, and that really rocked most of us back on their heels. And I think that flows in with COVID also. COVID was a big move to the cloud, Sean. It was, no longer did gates, guns, and guards matter, because all of a sudden you're processing your work. Everything was done dispersed, right? In a very dispersed manner from people's homes, vacation homes, family, living with their parents, whatever it may be. The world's changed.
Definitely. And if you think about the next phase of this, right, that everyone's grappling with, first it was get everybody, online. And then it came to, okay, how do we secure this? Because, the world's changed. Applications are in the cloud, albeit maybe a protected cloud or something to that effect. But how you access technology remotely is very different than it once was, where everything was routed through the corporate environment. And this is a big concern of government. So I think as they look at architectures like zero trust, where you're basically doing authenticating everyone in, coming onto the network and the associated privileges, and you're doing microsegmentation and things like that, is becoming the mainstay. You have to do this because you're not going through a traditional routing, through a corporate network to get access to resources. You're going directly to the cloud in a lot of instances, and therefore, security is a major concern. But right. even I think even as you look at zero trust, right, and the components of it, there's a lot of traditional components of it. But when you start thinking about, okay, people will have access from home office, on either corporate systems or BYOD systems, then you have to make sure that you authenticate somebody as they come onto the network, but how do you continuously make sure that that person is who they are and that they're behaving appropriately based on their role and who they are. So behavior analysis or analytics across an individual, taking a human-centric view of security becomes even more important. Not the least of which. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say the zero trust idea that you're talking about, Sean. It was at the summit. It was your panel, Eric, that I don't know why.
Steve, we've been a lot of time talking about it.
Yeah. So we've been talking about zero trust forever, like at least 10 years, right? But for some reason, that panel, a light went on in my head, and I was like, okay, this is a philosophy. This is something that we need to be doing just across the board. It's not a technology. This is a way that we should be doing business.
It's a journey, I think Steve said.
Yeah.
I thought it was my dashing good looks that maybe made it the best panel session, but
sorry, it was Steve.
I'll take
was
Steve.
Awesome.
Yeah, he was really brilliant. Him and Myrna going back and forth. But it's a journey. I absolutely agree with that. It is a journey, but it's a way of thinking because the work has dispersed. It has changed.
Well, and it seems like it would make it possible too for George Camus and General Brendler talked about cross-domain in the cloud, which is not that far off. And it seems like zero trust is one of those things, one of those ideas that's really going to make that secure.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you think about cross-domain and cloud, they're diametrically opposed. Cross-domain is a device that connects various networks at varying levels, right? It is an enabler for cloud. Now that cloud service providers are providing clouds at different security levels, whether it's unclassified or secret or higher. You have to be able to move information between those environments. A lot of sources for data that needs to go into a secret cloud, if you will come from the unclassified arena, or from an unclassified source, and therefore needs to come across a cross-domain device in order to be able to go in there. As well as if you have a platform, if you have, think of Azure or Office 365 that may exist within a higher security cloud, those aren't connected to the internet. So you have, in order to update the platforms and the applications that reside on those platforms, you have to leverage cross-domain capabilities in order to do that. So when you think about the importance of cross-domain capability in the eyes of being able to leverage the full value of cloud at multiple security levels, that technology is an absolute critical enabler of success for customers and what they're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, I think that accessibility to that information, whatever it may be, is key. And I think the other thing, as I look at the space, our adversaries have learned here. COVID taught them something, right? We can work from home, but our systems were much less secure the day we decided to do that. We're going to secure them more. But our adversaries learned that, when we disperse the workforce, they're online and working, but they're also accessible. We don't have physical buildings, gates, guns, and guards protecting them. Correct. At that point, right? Now it's a home network. It's what's your weakest link? Maybe it's your 5-year-old who's watching I'm dating myself, Barney. I don't know what 5-year-olds watch right now.
YouTube.
Sean. Oh, they're on YouTube also? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so is my 12 or 13-year-old now. Constant YouTube. So maybe that's an accessible path, a vector.
Well, and it makes me think of what, we talked to Jason DeShano from Booz Allen a few weeks ago. Remember, he said that, we got 5-year-olds getting on company devices, getting on agency devices. Think about what that's doing.
Right.
Yeah, and you think about you're investing a lot in zero trust and the authentication of individuals, but how are you ensuring that a user's credentials aren't compromised at some level? And it's a really interesting, this goes back to kind of, understanding the behavior of the people on your network and what they're supposed to be doing and what's appropriate, what's not. So identifying risk within, user groups, that's critically important in understanding if you do have, threats, or if you do have somebody whose credentials have been compromised, because it'll show up that they're doing things that aren't, normal for a person like that. But that risk identification then can be used by other aspects of the zero trust architecture, like from a microsegmentation perspective. Hey, if you have somebody that pops in at high risk within the organization, maybe you segment them down as to what they can access, and then from a credentialing and identity perspective, maybe you re-authenticate them. So lots of interesting tools and are enhanced when you can identify risk within an organization based on, the behavior of individuals. And I would, so many people and organizations get concerned around this, saying it's surveillance and that, that they're monitoring and they're monitoring me and my what I'm doing on the network. I view this more as protection, right? They're protecting individuals. No one here wants our credentials to be used in a nefarious way. So I do want, I do want some level of monitoring, understand if there is, if my credentials are doing things that shouldn't be, that they shouldn't be doing, and then identifying that as risk, and then, ensuring that, bad things don't happen because of that. So I think that's something too that as we think about enhancing the zero trust architectures and leveraging behavioral analytics, it's about protection, not about surveillance.
So I want to go back.
It's not positioned that way at all.
No.
You rarely hear it talking about the benefit to the employee, to the agent, the contractor, the user as protection. Because you're right, Sean, a police escort is very different than being taken to jail in the backseat of a cruiser. Right. Mm-hmm. One's surveillance and one's monitoring and one's heavy handed, but the other is very freeing. It helps you get somewhere faster and safer.
Right.
Carolyn, you were saying?
Well, I want to go back to something that you mentioned before, Sean. It's a word that keeps coming up, Eric. It came up in our session with General McChrystal. It came up in our session with George Randall about the talent war, and it's that word resilience. And so
we should do an episode on that.
I know. Well, I'm curious because you mentioned it a couple of times. As government agencies were moving to remote and being resilient, what does that word mean to you? If you can unpack it a little bit.
Yeah, it means diversity. It means not having all your eggs in one basket. Let me give you an example. I've got software developers, across the country in multiple sites that do software development for the various platforms that we bring to market. And with COVID, we've demonstrated we can do all of this development work from a remote locations. And what that's allowed us to do is for, when we had needs for very specific types of capability that we couldn't find in a geographic location where we needed it, we now can go hire them someplace else in the United States that has that, some individual that has that skill, that capability that we wouldn't be able to target historically based on our operating model. of how we looked at talent, where we needed them, and how we hired them. To me, that's resilience, right? Where you can have dispersion of force, right? Where you can tap talent wherever that talent may be, and be able to apply the best and brightest wherever they're located to the problem that you need to solve.
Yeah, it's such an important point, because when we limit ourselves geographically, that's, in our day and age now, that's really archaic, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, absolutely.
You want access to this new talent pool out there, this Gen X or Gen Z talent pool, millennial talent pool out there. You have to find them where they are.
All right. Well, as we wrap up, where do you see us, I guess, in the next 6 months, year?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see anything happening in the next different in the next 6 months. We may get a early stages of a vaccine that we start to deploy, but over the next 6 months we're not going to have that in any sort of force. So I don't see things changing too much from where they are right now. Over the next 6 months, I think we'll start seeing things change towards the maybe end of 21. That said, our customers are the government's moving on, right? They're actively engaged in the pursuit of their missions. I mean, I think we've recognized that this is the new normal, which I hate that term, but it's the truth. And we're thinking, we're innovating, and we're coming up with creative and new ways of addressing all the challenges given the current risk associated with COVID. So I think we're in this for a while longer, for sure, and then when we're past it, when the vaccine has been fully deployed, I think we're going to look back at all of this, and things will have fundamentally changed, and of how we do business and how we work and how we address challenges internally and abroad. So I think COVID has inextricably changed how we will do business as a government, as a commercial business forever. So.
But I think on the positive, Sean, we'll actually celebrate the fact that we can now hire from different parts of the country, right? We have more flexibility about where and when we work. We have additional resiliency, there you go, Carolyn, built into the system, so that when a data center comes offline or an application comes offline in one place, it comes back in the other. I can work from different devices. I think on the positive side, and I fully agree with you, we're looking at least another, I don't even want to throw dates out there because you're guaranteed to disappoint. But there will be positive aspects, positive learnings out of this. As Matt Moynihan, our CEO, has said, when COVID hit, IT did what would have taken years of study and hundreds of millions of dollars, and they just did their jobs. They just moved, and that we should celebrate. And I think we'll benefit.
I think that and this is something that everybody needs to do at every single level, right? We have to look and see what are the best practices, what are the learnings, what's going to make us more resilient, what's going to make us better, at more efficient and better at doing things. I mean, I'm going to change, my approach to travel, my approach to customer engagement, my approach to partner engagement, for sure. We can do so much with the technology that we have today, with video conferencing and Zoom and Teams and all of those different capabilities now, that we've never had that before. So you can do so much more now that people are comfortable with using it. Couldn't do it before when people weren't comfortable with using it because they would prefer you to be face-to-face. Now, with COVID, we're leveraging this technology in new ways that we've never done. So I'm excited about the innovation.
And it's accepted. It's okay.
It's fully accepted.
I remember one day you told me you were in Colorado meetings, you were in Georgia meetings, and I think it was DC, all in the same day. Physically impossible to have 3 meetings in 3 different cities or states like that.
And
in 3 days. You were excited.
Day, right? So, there's so much, we can all get so much more efficient now that people are comfortable with the technology.
Well, and That's the key. Like that mind shift is huge. I mean, I have so many friends that are developers. I've worked remotely for years. I love it. It reduces the stress of a commute. I mean, there's so many great things
think about how much more productive
work.
if you are that you're not driving 12 miles in
12 miles. I used to spend 2.5 hours a day minimum going to and from the office.
Exactly. So, but I have a lot of friends who are developers, and they've always said, "Oh, I could never do that. I would never want to work from home." Guess what? Those developers now, they don't want to go back to the office. Maybe once or twice a week.
It would have never, this would have never happened, right? If not forced, right? So
exactly,
it forced us to think through all of this stuff. So what additional things can we find that will help enhance our lives, improve productivity, get better at things, that we just haven't realized yet? So I'm pushing everyone in my organization to think differently, think about things that can help them when we're beyond COVID, because ultimately, we should be learning from this more ways than just, okay, we can do more things over video. There's probably 100 other things that we can benefit from how we're doing business today, during COVID.
I'll tell you what, one thing that we're not going to get when we go back to the office, you've got 2 dogs tearing a toy apart behind you, Sean. I'm afraid you're next on that list.
But isn't that hungry. Awesome? You get that companionship all day. I mean, I love having awesome. It's great. And to be able to see your kids, intermittently through the day. I mean, there's a lot of good things that have come from this. So,
yes, homeschooling not being one, but let's wrap on that one, Carolyn.
Let's wrap on that. And Sean, thank you so much for your time.
You bet.
It's always a great session when you join us. I always really enjoy the conversation. So thank you.
Thank you for inviting me. I look forward to our next session.
Awesome.
And, thanks to our listeners. Go hit that like button. Give us a review on your podcast platform, and we will hear you next week. We're out.
Good job.
We will hear you next week?
Shut up. I don't know how to end this stupid thing.
Our listeners don't talk to us. It goes the other way.
I know.
Listeners, we'll send each and every one of you a microphone and a recording capability.